Chapter 8. The Second Form of Contemplation. And right here, Ruysbroeck says about the self that has reached this stage, a deep and unending hunger and thirst begin. During the first stage of contemplation, you're basically figuring out where you fit in the world. You're opening up to the world's vibes and breaking down your own barriers. By doing this, you start seeing the world in a fresh light, not as an outsider, but as a part of the big web of life. However, the deeper you dive into this awareness, the more your consciousness expands. As you progress, you'll notice subtle signs that indicate you're reaching a more profound level of understanding and forming a stronger, more harmonious connection with the subject at hand. In other words, it's like you're piecing things together in a way that makes everything feel more interconnected and integrated. You know how sometimes life feels like you're getting bits and pieces, like single words and notes, and you have to work to make sense of them, just like understanding rules, categories, and how things relate. But now you're aiming for that one big message and tune that comes naturally without you having to struggle. You see that in tense moments, those words and notes are beautiful and meaningful because they're part of something bigger that you can't fully understand yet. For a long time, you've been like a child picking apart flower petals to make a design on a garden path. You thought this meticulous work gave you knowledge of the world. When the pieces fit together perfectly, you called it science. But now you finally realized the greater truth and beauty of the living plant from which you took those petals. You've actually connected with its reality. However, recognizing the living plant also brings an awareness of deeper realities you haven't explored yet. The intangible things and forces that nourish and support it, the entire universe that touches you through its life. Simply making a list of all of the plants, though it's better than your old game of organizing your own photos of them, won't give you access to the unity, the underlying truth, whatever it may be, that expresses itself through them. Thinking it can is the main mistake of the nature mystic, similar to the error of the psychologist who believes the soul can be found in psychic states. The more you understand the wonder of the plant and connect with the ever-changing world of growth, the quicker and more subtle your response will be to its many hints and suggestions. As a result, your yearning for something more will intensify. Now you'll begin to sense and experience the infinite and eternal. It's like they're making hidden and sacred connections with you through these ever-ongoing creative activities of the world. You'll want to go beyond these surface experiences to have a fuller understanding and a more perfect, direct connection with the essence of everything that exists. As you've grown and become more aware of the world around you, beyond just thinking about yourself, you've started to sense a powerful connection that goes way beyond all the little ones. You are now feeling a strong inner pull to enter the second stage of contemplation, something that's special to humanity. If you follow that inner calling, driven by your strong desire, and dive deeper into understanding the world, you can truly gain a profound insight and enrich your awareness. The only things holding you back are your own indifference and the strength of your desire. How much you seek is directly related to what you'll find. Your achievements match your longing's intensity. The outside reality and its energy remain constant, but your ability to absorb it depends on how bold and open you are. If you set limits on what you're willing to give of yourself, you'll feel restricted when you reach those boundaries, not satisfied. Offering your spirit a beautiful garden, even one filled with saints and angels, and pretending it's the whole universe won't bring you peace. True peace comes when you break down all barriers and trade the garden for an open wilderness, a mysterious and quiet place where lovers lose themselves. As you start this deep journey, take a humble approach, similar to what Julian of Norwich did. Begin by looking at things right in front of you. When Julian thought about a small thing that showed her how everything in the universe is connected, she saw 3 important aspects through her deep and loving insight. She tried to explain these with her theological symbols. First, God made it. Second, God loves it. Third, God keeps it. These are 3 stages in our growing understanding of reality through contemplation. They're not just ideas, they're facts she had a hard time describing in words. The first thing to know is that every living being, like a bud on the tree of life, is born, grows, gets old, and eventually dies because of a creative force. The world, with all its changes and growth, isn't the ultimate reality. There's something bigger behind it all. While religious folks might take this as a given, we're focusing here on direct experience rather than faith. To really sense and grasp the 2 aspects of reality, which we call created and uncreated, the natural and the spiritual, as clearly as we do land and sea, is like opening a door to a world beyond our regular senses. It's akin to standing with a poet for a moment and suddenly understanding the entire poem you once only saw bits and pieces of during an earlier contemplative stage. Back then you were learning to read and found deep meaning and beauty in the words, lines, and stanzas. But every detail's significance becomes even more profound, and you truly get its essence when you know the poem not as a sequence of lines and stanzas, but as a whole that exists beyond linear time. Julian then delves into a deeper understanding of the heart that comes from living with humility and without selfish intentions. She realizes that this whole, ever-changing natural order, even with its conflicts, cruelties, and apparent wastefulness, has its roots in a powerful love and constant giving. This love is what brings it into existence, keeps it going, and moves it forward because everything exists through the love of God. This insight answers a troubling question raised by Blake. The same creative mind that thought up the gentle lamb also thought up the fierce tiger. Basically, Julian is telling us that whether something is beautiful, scary, or even malevolent, it's surrounded by love and is a part of a world that isn't just a result of mechanical necessity, but of intense desire. So nothing can be truly labeled as low or unworthy, no matter how messed up it might appear. Even things that have gone down the wrong path can find a way to be better. This loving perspective corrects the mistaken idea of certain fake mystics who see the physical world as inherently bad and try to avoid its tricks. As a result, the more something seems beautiful and noble to us, the more we love it. When we do that, we see it more genuinely because we recognize the divine spark within it, pushing to shine through. We start sharing in the simplicity and purity of vision that many saints and a few poets have, letting them see everything as they are in God. In the end, this world where a loving and patient Creator brings His grand vision to life through finite shapes is supported by something even greater. Julian calls it kept. Surprisingly, the ever-changing forces of love and creation that fuel it come together and find their completeness in the unchanging realm of being. This eternal and unchanging aspect supports the physical world, similar to how a tree's roots are in solid ground and it's surrounded by the air around it. Here, finally, is the solid foundation and refuge for the curious mind tired of constant change. In this realm, all the changes exist as a whole, happening all at once, in a way we can't completely grasp. But in moments of reflection, we might get a glimpse and feel it. When someone reaches this state, going beyond all images, no matter how beautiful or meaningful, to that indescribable awareness called naked contemplation by mystics, stripped of all the layers that reason and imagination use to hide our inner struggles and ideals, That's when the heart's hunger and thirst are truly satisfied. It's at that point that we receive a real sense of the ultimate reality. This assurance isn't like the cold conclusion of a successful argument. It's more like finally grabbing something that has always been close and calling us, an incredibly simple yet all-encompassing solution to all the mysteries of life. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a bustling city, surrounded by the constant noise, movement, and chaos of life. It feels like everything is changing rapidly and you're struggling to make sense of it all. But then, you decide to take a moment to sit in a quiet park. As you gaze at the trees, the sky, and the people passing by, something profound happens. It's as if time slows down, and you begin to perceive everything happening around you, not as a series of separate events, but as a unified whole. In that moment of clarity, you feel a deep sense of peace and understanding. It's like you've peeled away all the layers of distraction and complexity to reach a simple, profound truth about the world and your place in it. This experience isn't the result of a logical argument or analysis. It's a direct, intuitive grasp of the deeper reality that has always been there, waiting for you to see it. Just as you surrendered yourself to the fragmented, yet real natural world, seeking to understand its secrets by letting it reveal itself to you through the surrender of your self-centeredness, the focused direction of your attention, and the union of love, now you are to repeat this process on new levels to reach even higher unions. Though it might feel like you're stuck in the ups and downs of life, aging and facing mortality, there's a part of you that endures and goes beyond this ever-changing world, as you realized in the first exercise of remembering. Your inner self, often called your spirit, possesses a unique ability to expand and merge with a larger awareness, and then it can come together as a more unified and powerful personality. It's like having this innate sense of something deeper, a rhythm or reality beyond the usual stuff you experience. In simpler terms, it can tap into something vast and boundless. We'll call it the infinite. This capacity, this desire for something more, is frequently pushed aside or hidden by the practical aspects of daily life. But it's the root of that feeling of restlessness you sometimes have. It's also where your strongest feelings of love and passion originate, as well as the driving force behind your brave actions and accomplishments. All those things you do in life are really indirect and experimental attempts to satisfy this hard-to-define craving for a final source of devotion, a big and enlightening vision, a complete giving of yourself, and a significant and perfect purpose where your small, everyday actions can come together and find real fulfillment. It's like you're searching for something profound and meaningful to connect with, even if you're not always consciously aware of it. St. Thomas Aquinas believed that people can't easily experience the direct vision of the divine essence, which is basically an understanding of a constantly active and all-encompassing force. Why? Because it often seems necessary for them to rely on physical images. This reliance on images can break their continuous and vivid understanding into separate, disconnected ideas. In simpler terms, it's like they can't experience the world of sensations without first thinking about it. But it's important to note that it's not the person themselves, it's just how their mind works. Their mental processes are the ones that have this need. These mental processes take the vast perceptions of the spirit and turn them into limited, finite images. Think of it like a prism that takes white light and splits it into different colors. So if someone wants to truly grasp the divine secret, they must free themselves from the dominance of this image-making power more thoroughly than ever before. Just as we can't understand life solely through laboratory methods, we can't grasp God purely through intellectual methods. As written in The Cloud of Unknowing, You can fully understand other creatures, their actions, and even the things God does with the help of grace, and you can think about them. However, you can't think about God directly. So, I'd suggest giving up trying to think about everything I can grasp with my thoughts, and instead focus on loving what I can't fully understand with my mind. You see, you can love God, but you can't quite wrap your thoughts around Him. Love is the way to have and keep a connection with Him, but it won't happen through thinking alone. Gotten and required. These simple words imply getting something easily at hand rather than going on a difficult journey or soul-searching quest. Mystics teach us that reality is both near and far. It's far from our everyday thinking, but completely fills and sustains our lives. If we could just clear our minds and see clearly, nothing would be closer, more precious, or more delightful. To discover it, you simply need to turn your attention inward towards your deepest self to really understand your own soul. It's like you're already part of something bigger. We dwell in Him and He in us. You're already part of the eternal order. The vision of the divine essence, your soul's connection to the Supreme Source, is an ongoing process. Your inner spark is continually reaching toward a higher spirit, like the peak of your personality always looking toward the divine. This connection shapes your life and keeps it going. But you've been caught up in various things since you were a child. Everyday worries and what you've considered life have occupied your thoughts. So the most important events of your true life, both physical and spiritual, like the constant growth within you, how you integrate parts of the universe into your ever-changing body, and the intricate processes that keep you connected to the material world and influence your spiritual growth, all of this has happened without you really noticing. All this time, you've been nurtured and supported by a surrounding and creative love, much like how a little thing is cared for. But you're less aware of this love than you are of the air you breathe. Now, just as in the first stage of contemplation, you learned and confirmed as an obvious and experienced reality your brotherly connection with all the other children of God, becoming a part of the rhythm of their lives and sharing in their ups and downs. Won't you at least make an effort to do the same with your relationship as a child of God? The realization of your true position, your place in the eternal world, is ready for you. It marks the next step in your gradual journey toward understanding reality. The method to achieve this is very much like how you gained a deeper awareness of the natural world in which you exist and grow. Here, too, it will involve direct, intuitive contact, relying on your senses rather than your thoughts to bring you certainty. Tasting food, not discussing it, as St. Bonaventura puts it. But it's important to note a clear difference between these two stages. In the first stage, when you turned your attention inward and collected your thoughts through recollection, that was just the beginning of a new phase. It marked a transition from your own personal concerns to a deeper and more accurate grasp of the world around you. Now, in the second stage, the disciplined and collected attention appears to take a different path. It's directed toward a plane of existence not tied to your bodily senses. This realm isn't just misunderstood by your regular concepts. It can't be represented by them at all. Consequently, your attention must turn inward, away from everything that can be thought or felt, as the mystics say, and away from every image, notion, or thing. It should move toward that enigmatic state of obscurity referred to as the night of sense by St. John of the Cross. Take it step by step, being mindful of any wandering thoughts, or even thoughts that might seem spiritual. Keep going deeper within yourself toward that basic and undivided state from which all your different mental abilities come. As you go on, you'll start feeling empty and free, like you're in a place where all your usual thinking has stopped. This state is known as nakedness of spirit, or wayless love by experts. They say it's beyond any human concepts and thoughts, a level of awareness where reason can't explain anything. Then you'll notice that you've entered into a profound and vivid silence. It's a silence that exists on its own, persisting despite the constant noises of your everyday world. Within this realm of silence, you may feel as if you're losing yourself, as Ruysbroeck puts it, ebbing and flowing, wandering, and being lost in the imageless ground. He struggles to describe the sensations of the self in this initial encounter with the wayless world beyond image, where all is, yet in no way. Despite the darkness surrounding you, the overwhelming sense of unknowing that surrounds you, you're convinced that being in this place is right. It's a unique certainty that you can't dissect or explain. A peculiar contentment and peace settle within you. You start to grasp the meaning of what the psalmist meant when he said, "Be still and know." You find yourself in a wilderness, a solitary place, a dim and unfamiliar state about which you can say nothing because it doesn't provide material for your imagination. Yet, this wilderness, although it may seem barren and lonely from one perspective, also feels strangely familiar. In it, all your sorrowful questions are answered without words. It encompasses everything, and you are inside it, a part of it, and you recognize that it is good. It draws out the deepest reverence you can offer and, mysteriously, reciprocates love for love. According to the mystics, you've reached a state where you're in sync with the will of God. You are now part of a slower, higher flow of time, and it feels like it's gently carrying you. Even though your soul is quite active, it might seem like you're at peace and still. Plotinus's doctrine about a higher life of unity and a lower life of multiplicity, which he believed was possible for every human spirit, now seems like a straightforward statement of reality to you. You've confirmed it through your own experiences. You get that these are two different but harmonious ways to see and relate to reality. One as an ongoing process, and the other as an unchanging whole. When you look at it this way, they don't clash with each other. You realize that the continuous flow, the fragmented world of change and multiplicity still exists, and as a creature within this temporal world, you're evolving and changing with it. However, thanks to the development of the higher aspect of your consciousness, you've achieved a new balance, a direct participation in that simple, transcendent life that is broken, yet not divided. This life provides meaning and validity to the temporal world. You also understand that without diminishing the reality of the ever-changing life to which you initially formed connections with the universe, you are an integral part of a greater whole. Since you are human, you are also spirit, and you are currently living eternal life amidst the passage of time. This can be likened to playing a video game where you are one of the characters. The game world is always changing and filled with lots of things happening. You're part of this world, so you change and grow along with it. But as you play the game more and more, you reach a level where you've gained special powers. Now you can see the bigger picture of the game, the whole storyline. You realize that the game's complexity and constant action still matter, and they're what make the game interesting. But you also understand the game's underlying code, the simple rules that make it all work. So you're both in the game, dealing with all the ups and downs, and at the same time, you're kind of like the game's creator, seeing the game as a whole. This makes the game more meaningful to you, and you realize that even though you're connected to the ever-changing game world, you're also part of something much bigger, something eternal, like the spirit of the game itself. The impact of this type of contemplation even in the extent that an average person can practice it, can be compared to the abrupt shift in the atmosphere and the change in our perspective when we move from the bustling streets into a serene church. In that church, there's a burning lamp and a lasting silence, unchanging through time. This silence radiates out and cuts through the surrounding chaos. While escaping the flickering light of street lamps, you might catch a glimpse through a high window of an eternal star. The walls of the church serve to narrow our focus, keeping out the overwhelming rush of life with its constant demands and distractions. This narrowing makes it possible for us to grasp that deep, eternal peace. Our consciousness is like a bridge between eternity and time, always ready to shift between the two. That's why having a physical aid for concentration, like the church, is essential for us. However, the peace and presence we seek can be found everywhere. It's not the peace that needs an altar or sanctuary. It's us who require them. Through your deliberate and humble practice of contemplation, you'll eventually learn to find this peace both within and beyond the protective walls of recollection. You'll get what Julian meant when she said that the most important thing about everything created is that God takes care of it. You'll experience a strong sense of a surrounding presence that goes beyond the constant changes in life and is beyond what our regular thinking can grasp. Just like you learned about the secrets of nature by going with the flow, by immersing yourself in it without trying to figure it all out, here, by willingly embracing silence and a deep sense of nothingness, the cloud, you'll get closest to the reality that's hidden from our everyday senses. It's like what Patmore said, lovers put out the candle and draw the curtains when they want to see God and the goddess. In this higher connection, not thinking actually leads to deeper understanding. Reaching a state of eternity where you feel a deep and simple connection, often called the quiet, the desert of God, or the divine dark by mystics, represents the highest level of understanding that a person can achieve on their own to connect with reality. Some people find joy and peace in this, while others might feel fear. But for everyone, it's a bit of a paradox. It makes you feel both small and great at the same time. It's like your soul is measuring itself against the vastness of the infinite. Even though someone who practices contemplation and focuses their attention can return to this state of awareness, to the quiet, it's a brief experience by nature. Humans are bound by time and immersed in it. The demands of this state of awareness can only end with physical death, and perhaps not even then. Continuously immersing oneself in the transcendent is impossible for humans, and attempting it is both antisocial and impractical. However, this experience, this ascent to the not, forever alters the dimensions of life for those who have known it. It deepens and elevates life, paving the way for further experiences and the profound transformation of existence that occurs when the personal actions of finite will yield to the compelling influence of another power.